Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Magic Pause podcast. I'm so happy you are here. It's your host here, Annalena. And in today's episode, I feel called to share with you some reflections from the True Sidereal Human Design Summit that I hosted with 12 amazing guest expert speakers just this last week. We literally just finished over the weekend. And then I will also share with you a little bit of teachings on human design about the energy centers, because I think this is something super helpful, super important, because the whole topic of energy is something that's so relevant for all of us. We want to have more energy, or we wonder sometimes when we don't have energy to do certain things. So I think that's going to help you a lot. So first things first, the True Sidereal Summit, how did it all came about? Honestly, I had been playing with the idea of hosting a summit for probably the last 2 years. And I always thought I was going to create a summit about conscious money as a topic. But somehow I didn't feel that final pull for it really to happen, right? When you feel like the universe is really supporting you left and right, and you have the insights, you have the downloads, you get things to respond to. So somehow I thought that's what it was going to be, but then somehow it didn't happen. Now, I was part of many summits in the meantime as a guest speaker myself, and I had always enjoyed it. But I got to the point where I felt this inner knowing, I think it's really time for me to host a summit. And of course, I mean, hosting a summit is also a little bit of work, it's not just clicking one button because there's a lot involved. And some of you may know that since the beginning of this year, as I have been very deep into my own human design experiment with myself, working with so many beautiful clients, this topic of true sidereal astrology came into my world, and I had such a strong body or sacral response to it that I could not just let it be or not do anything with that. And of course, it brought a lot of change into my own business because I had been following the very traditional way of looking at human design just from the tropical astrology perspective, because all human design charts basically that you pull online, for the vast majority, is always based on tropical astrology. And I had heard many, many years ago already when I was studying with Karen Parker that there's something called sidereal astrology, but I wasn't even interested. There was nothing in my body that was like, okay, look deeper into it. But it did change with time. So the entire year 2024 has been literally a true sidereal for myself. I got so curious. I got so interested. And all this, by the way, came from responding to what clients brought into the containers I was teaching, the questions that I have been asked. So I was literally going with the flow of what God, universe wanted me to follow. And it was a little bit scary because my mind, my ego was telling me that, oh, just stick with the tropical because that's more mainstream, that's more popular, that's what's going to make more money. But if there's one thing that human design has taught me is that I'm here to trust my body over my mind. That's literally the biggest wisdom of human design for everyone, for no matter what human design type you are. And I made that decision that I will follow what my body, what my gut is really pulling me towards. And I did it. And it was a really beautiful decision because I started to get so much feedback. So many people reach out to me over the month, over the course of this year. And also, if you have been following me on this podcast, I had many, many conversations with people that were already previously on my podcast, or some people that discovered me because I started to talk more about true sidereal. And we had conversations about their own journey and experiment with first their tropical human design and also gene keys, and then also feeling this pull towards the true sidereal version of the human design chart. And it was so beautiful because I started to realize that there had been so many people for many years actually already that had discovered the true sidereal version of human design, which is also called cosmic human design. But there was a little bit of resistance, I think, to put it more out into the world, because you will see this oftentimes with tools and systems out there that they say it's this one way, right? And we get kind of over-identified with it. And this can also happen with human design where, well, you're this one type, you're this one profile, and this is it, there's nothing else. And many of my clients, after I started to talk more about the true sidereal human design, they came to me and said, well, Nalila, I always secretly wished I would be this type, or I secretly wish that this would be different in my chart, or I was wondering why I don't have this gate. And then they had a look at their true sidereal chart, and all of a sudden they found elements that they kind of were missing before, or they were sharing with me that somehow something felt misaligned, but because it was human design and it said that's what you are, they were trying to almost fit themselves into that. And so in a way, this was like an awakening moment to realize that we still can get very easily limited in a way where we tell ourselves a story of like, oh, I can only be this and nothing else, right? And that was a big aha moment for me because I also realized from my own journey that it's not just the human design type I am. And it's not just the profile that my tropical human design chart says. There's so much more. And at the end of the day, I truly feel that everything that we have in a human design chart, all the 6 lines, all the human design types, or I actually like to call them archetypes, in some way they apply all to us. Where it really gets difficult is when we start to separate ourselves in a way of like, it can only be this, but not the other. Versus, hey, I can identify a little bit with this, what I learned about human design, but also this other part, right? So there's quite an overlap, which I have seen so much from my own journey. And again, working with so many clients that I have come to see human design in a very, very different way. It's very different than what you read in the textbooks. It's very different than most of the teachings I think you even see online, because I have started to notice it's very cookie cutter. There's always this like, oh, you have this in your chart like this, then this. It's almost like a definite in some way. And I think we can easily forget that human design, after all, is an experiment. Try it out, play, have some fun with it, and see what fits and what doesn't fit. And my experiment has clearly shown me, it's almost 5 years now, that yeah, you really have all of the chart. And there may be also different charts that you resonate at some point in your life. And on my own journey, it was that it was first the tropical human design chart, and then very strongly now for almost the last year, the true sidereal version of my human design chart. And is that going to be a definite? I don't know, right? Because things are changing. This is also one of the things I have learned from the wisdom in human design and gene keys through some of these gates, that the only constant we ever have is change. And so with all of that, right, my own experience having these conversations also with other people that so resonated with, I think, my flexibility and open-mindedness when it comes to looking at human design and gene keys and any other tool that can help you be more compassionate with yourself, step more into your power and your purpose. And with all of that, the true sidereal comment came about because there was just so much demand. There was so much response that I never saw before in my business. I mean, I had gotten a lot of beautiful feedback, but the amount of messages that were coming in to thank me that I had the courage to talk about true sidereal was beautifully overwhelming, and really showed me, okay, there's something here for me to really follow this and pursue this. And of course, I also had the pleasure and honor to study with Ethan Chimenti. He's amazing. He's the founder of True Sidereal in astrology. And he really has done this for, I think, over 10 years already. And he also in the beginning got a lot of, resistance from certain people because, we can easily get very attached, in this case, to tropical astrology. And it's just beautiful to see that he has paved the path for such a long time. And it does take time for things to pick up, Human design started to get on the wagon over 4 years ago, I think, when Richard Mason created the Cosmic Human Design website. And because there you can pull your human design chart based on the true sidereal astrology calculations. And I think just this year, and I think this is why the summit was ready to get out into the world through me in some way. I have been a big part of it, apparently. And yeah, it was just this strong calling. And I was working with my mentors in a program to further, get my message out into the world and launch my heart projects. And one of the topics that was also like to put on a summit. And I kind of responded to it, but then I was like, summit is a lot of work and maybe not. But then it just all came about. I had such a strong pull in my body, and I had already made all the connections that I needed over this last year, right? I just literally made one post. I reached out to several people that I wanted to have on the summit that I already knew from before, from talking to them or from what other people were telling me about some people in the true Sidereal space. And so it just came about, it just happened. And long story short, we had then the True Sidereal Summit this last week, and we had over 500 people join us. So they had access to the interview recordings for 24 hours each day. And there were 2 to 3 interviews every day. So it wasn't like too much content, which I sometimes find in summits, there's just too much. And I really wanted to focus on less, but more profound and more deep. And there were people also sharing their own stories with true sidereal and tropical astrology, and how sometimes they also work with both. So the one big feedback that I saw again and again from people that participated in the summit was that it was so beautiful because there was this open-mindedness, there was this flexibility. It was like a fresh breath of air where it wasn't this like very fixed and rigid way. And if you're not going to fit into it, and then something is wrong with you, right? It was literally like very expansive, very inviting into really the experiment that human design is. And of course, the summit wasn't just about human design, it was also about astrology, gene keys. We even had one of the speakers, David Kahn, he was also on the podcast here a few months ago, talk about how he's using some of the true sidereal wisdom for astrocartography. It was super, super interesting. And yeah, in case you are like, oh my gosh, I missed this, you can still get access to the VIP access pass. I will make sure I drop the link in the show notes for that, because with that, you can get access to all the interviews for a year and also download the audio recordings. So that is there as a possibility for you for sure. And I also, in the beginning, I was like, I'm just going to do the summit once, but literally many, many people already have asked me to do it again, including Ethan Chimenti. Thank you for that. I really honor that. Of course, he was part of the summit and he was so supportive. And yeah, so many of my clients also gave me beautiful feedback of how it was to be part of the summit and the feedback that they received from the people that were watching the summit. And so very likely this is going to be an ongoing summit happening again, probably at least once a year. And I'm just really looking forward to that. And I wanted to share this with you because this is not something I planned in the beginning of the year. And I think I have shared this also many times, that the way I run my business is very different than what we kind of learn often in the mainstream self-development world, where it's like, well, you're going to sit down and you're going to plan the quarter, you're going to plan the year. And I have definitely tried this a few times. And, first it kind of feels good because you feel like you have everything organized for the year. But then I start to notice that there is literally no room for my body to respond what life or God wants me actually to create this year. And that's why I have started not to plan too far ahead. I mean, I do have my big vision, just like I had this vision for a while to put on a summit, but I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know how big or what the exact topic was. I had kind of some ideas, but then it all happened differently and probably not at the time that I would have planned it. And most likely much more smooth and effortless than if I would have put just my mind into something like, oh, I have to create this summit now and force it in some way. So that just never really works for me. Thankfully, I think, because life is always showing me that when I can fully trust and surrender, and then manifest from this place, yeah, it feels just more aligned. It feels more right. And now with the summit too, I didn't go into this planning, okay, it's going to be an annually repeating summit, but in response to the audience and the speakers and how everything went, and literally people were asking during the summit, like, oh, this is so amazing, and I can't wait for the next one. So it was already like, okay, there's a next one coming, you know? And so this is how I know, not because I think how it should be. It's more like, okay, let me respond to life. Let me respond to what is meant for this project in the future. So I hope this inspires you a little bit. And again, if you were part of the summit, thank you so much for making this such an epic event. It was such a delight and such a joy for me. And also, I honored myself last week in the sense that I slowed down a little bit with my other activities in my business. You probably know I just did a shorter solo episode here on the podcast where I literally just invited you to join us to the summit. Also, my weekly email newsletter was much shorter and was also more focused on the summit because I also wanted to give you really the space and time to focus on the summit if this was something that you chose for yourself to immerse yourself in. Because I very much live by the concept that less is more. And, part of me was like, no, you gotta keep posting on social media, all these things. You gotta write this super long email and everything. I was like, you know what? Let's just keep it a little bit less this week and really focus on the energy on the summit. And then next week, we're going back to other things. So here we are. And now I wanted to teach a little bit about something in the human design chart that has to do with energy. So in the human design chart, and I'm going to actually share my screen. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will be able to see it, but I also will make sure I will explain it in the best way possible. So even if you don't have a screen right in front of you, you will be able to follow. So in the human design chart, we have these 9 centers, right? And they're either colored in, which we call defined, or they're going to be white, which we call undefined. And 4 of these centers are called motor centers. And this is the sacral center, which is usually red in human design charts. And then below the sacral center, at the very bottom of the human design body graph, is the root center. And then we also have the smallest center, little triangle is called the heart, will, or ego center. There are 3 different words you can use interchangeably. And then we also have the emotional solar plexus at the very right of the body graph. And so these are all, like I said, we call them motor centers. And these centers are called a motor because they have an on and off cycle with energy, just like a car. Sometimes it's driving and then it's resting. And what I have found is very interesting in the human design community is that there's such a strong focus on the sacral center, right? So the sacral center is here to work in some way. And oftentimes people think that, oh, if I have the sacral white or undefined, then I don't have much energy. And in the traditional human design, you're either a manifestor, reflector, or a projector if the center is undefined. And I have found that it's really not true. Again, in my humble opinion, and from what I have experimented with human design and working with so many people, that you necessarily have less energy than if you were to have the sacral center defined. What it really means is when one of these centers is defined, colored in or white and undefined, is that when it's defined, it's more that you access this energy from within yourself, and you may find it easier to become wise about this energy because it's something that feels more familiar to you, right? And if something is white and undefined, you learn this energy more through your interactions with the world, with your environment, with other people. And it may take a little bit longer to become wise about the energy, but eventually you can become extra wise about this energy. And in essence, we all have a sacral center. So whatever your human design type is right now, if this is in your tropical chart or in your true sidereal chart or any other version of your human design chart, doesn't matter. I want you all to think about the sacral center as your sacral chakra, right? If you think about the 7 chakras, you're probably not going to be like, oh, I don't have a sacral chakra, right? Because I'm a manifestor or something like this. So the sacral center has wisdom for all of us. The wisdom is that, okay, I was talking about working. So when we engage in activities that really light us up, where we have this body pull, like I was telling you about this summit I put on, right? There was this energy, just like it lit me up. There was also so many things I kept getting to respond to because people were asking me, and it happened over a long period of time as well. And then eventually there was this like, woo, now, yes, now it's time to go. And so my sacral responded to it in a way that it's a yes, right? It's the right time for me to go do this. And then I found that even though there was a lot of work that went into the summit, it still felt effortless in some way. And I really enjoyed the work. And sometimes I was actually working on some things, and then I felt like even more energized because I was using the energy in the way that it was meant to be directed to, right? But then there are other times, even when you have a defined sacral, where you are supposed to slow down and rest, you know? And this is also, I experienced this in the other areas of my business where I just felt like I don't have this energy now for everything here. I really need to focus on the summit, you know? And even if you have an undefined sacral, it will be very much like this. You're still here to respond because the sacral center is here to respond, and every human here in life is here to respond, right? To the things that light you up, the things that you feel passionate about. And the more we all engage in activities that really are aligned with our natural gifts and talents and kind of the nudges and the signs that the universe is putting in front of us, the more energy it will give us. Because it's literally, I like to say, it's like God letting you know, like, yeah, this is where I want you to be. I'm going to give you more energy for this because exactly this is for you. And other times when you're trying to force, so let's imagine I was going to force a summit a year ago because my mind was like, you got to do this to build your email list or whatever the goal would have been. But it wasn't like timely aligned and it wasn't the right thing for me. Then I could probably have made it happen, but I maybe would have gotten a little bit burned out, because it wasn't divinely aligned. So this is the sacral center, and some of the things I have been just talking about already brought in a little bit of the wisdom of the root center. So the root center is also an energy center, and it has a pulse. It's the pulse literally of divine timing. And when the pulse is on, we feel this urge to take action. That's where everything starts. So this is why also how the summit came about for me was literally at some point, literally I felt this pulse all of a sudden is there, and then my sacral was lit up. So they play together in some way. And again, even if you have just one defined and the other one undefined, and sometimes we have transits or we are around other people, you can trust that this energy will find you when the time is right, and with the root center at other times, the pulse will feel off. It's literally like, your mind may be like, yeah, but I need to do this. But your body literally is in this energy of like, no, I really need to wait right now. And when you can allow yourself to wait when the pulse is off and not push and force it, which is sometimes hard for us because the mind may tell you like, yeah, but I have to do this. I have to take action in order to make money or whatever the story is. And then again, we find ourselves that also the sacral is not on in the way that it's really something that lights you up. And we are kind of pushing against the natural flow of life force. And the more we can get out of our heads and into the body through mindfulness, through taking a magic pause, through meditation, through going onto walks, anything that really relaxes you and helps you to drop more into the body, the more you're going to become in tune with this sensation in your body where you can feel if the pulse is on or the pulse is off, you know? And again, we all have this. We're all connected to the pulse because of the divine timing. It's not that if you only have a defined root center, then you feel the pulse, or if you have it undefined, then you don't feel the pulse. No, we all feel it. But it's a matter of how we learn this, you know? Is it more through your own personal experience, or is it more through your experience with others, your environment? And it's also with the transits. So there is no one way, and it's going to be just very, very unique for everyone. And it all starts with this awareness. So if this is right now a little bit new for you, I just invite you to be more aware of when you feel like there's this pulse to take action, and when it's like really like you feel like the pulse is off, right? And this doesn't mean like we have to sit on the couch when the pulse is off, but it could be that the pulse is off to take action in your business, and the pulse is on to really nourish yourself with self-care, you know? Now, the other two motor centers also, we have the ego or heart or will center. This is the center mainly associated with willpower, also a sense of self-worth. And here's literally the energy where we can, take action from willpower. Here, we can get very easily burned out when we take action to prove ourselves, right? When we do something to show it to others. Yeah, I can do it. But it doesn't come from, following the pulse of the root or the response of the sacral center where you feel like lit up and really passionate about something. It's more about, yeah, I'm going to do this so other people are going to like me, or I can finally show my parents that I can do this or make the money, or whatever the story may be, right? That's also when we can get very easily burnt out. Again, if you have it defined or not. And the ego center is also a center that naturally needs consistent rest. It's this energy of taking action, doing things, and then it needs rest. And this is something for all the energy centers. There's going to be an on cycle and there's going to be an off cycle. And you have to find your own rhythm. You have to find your own dance. The more you attune to your body, going back to this importance of finding activities that get you out of your head and into your body, the more you will find your own unique dance. And let me tell you, this is not going to be the same for all projectors. It's not going to be the same for all manifestors. It's not going to be the same for all generators, right? This is unique to you. This is your unique experience. Just like your human design chart is going to be so unique to you. There's so much more than the type. There's so much more than the centers and everything. So then the last one we have is the emotional solar plexus of the motor centers. And here, in terms of on and off, we have these emotional waves, right? Where we have emotions that are high, where we feel like happy and elated and excited and things are going good. And then there are other times where the emotions drop and we feel really low, maybe even melancholic. And we tend to think there's something wrong with that, right? And the more we can surrender into both, into allowing ourselves to actually be happy, this is also something I think we sometimes resist. And we can also allow ourselves to feel blah and to feel low at times, but not make it mean anything. It just is. And we're just here to observe it. And the big message is also with the emotional solar plexus for everyone, by the way. And I know if you have been following traditional human design knowledge, you may think, oh, only if I have a defined emotional solar plexus, I have to wait to make big decisions. But I found that really applies to everyone, because also when you have an undefined emotional solar plexus, you also feel emotions. If that's through the transits, or you have some dormant or hanging gates in your chart, there's always going to be emotional energy going. And it may just take a little bit of more time when you have an undefined solar plexus to really learn also that when emotions are high or low, we want to refrain from making big decisions. Why? Because when emotions are really high, we're really like hyped up, right? We're like super excited, sometimes taking on somebody else's excitement. And then we just jump onto that. But we may not had a full body response, or the pulse is maybe off, or you're pushing with your willpower too much, or maybe you're doing it to prove yourself, right? And then we may engage into activities, or we may invest a lot of money into something that then we really didn't have the energy for. And also, when we make big commitments in terms of investing time, money, energy, and resources into something, when we feel emotionally low, then also what happens is that, yeah, it's often a misaligned decision, because we then often make a decision because we feel like, oh, if I do this now, then I'm going to feel better, right? And the best decisions really come about when we can just allow this on and off cycle to happen, and we make a big decision when we feel emotionally calm, right? When we feel really grounded and centered in the body. So that's, yeah, what I have found. And with all these 4 energy centers, it is so crucial and important that you just understand that there is, for all of them, in a way, an on and off cycle. Sometimes the energy is on, sometimes the energy is off. Sometimes the emotions are high, sometimes the emotions are low, right? And there's nothing to fix about it. I think the big dilemma we live in the world is that we always think there's something wrong. We always think that I have to be on all the time, or I shouldn't feel this way, right? And then what we do is that we force ourselves against the natural flow of divine timing, of God's plans for us. And then we start to get very easily burnt out. And this can happen to all of us. It doesn't matter what human design type you are. I can tell you, I've worked especially with generator types for so many years. And so many of them are really, really burnt out, because even when you have a defined sacral and you keep engaging in activities a lot repeatedly, when you're not fully lit up by something and you keep doing that, you totally get the sacral motor turned off, because life is letting you know this is not your path. I would like for you to be on this path, which is so much more effortless, right? And again, this just comes through us listening. And this is why I'm so passionate about taking a magic pause, because it is literally, I believe, only through slowing down and allowing ourselves to really feel our body that we can get in touch with those nudges of these centers, right? If it feels emotionally aligned, does it come from aligned willpower? Or does it come from proving myself to something? Does it come from really leaning into this divine pulse of taking action? Or does it come because I'm so in my mind and I have this idea and I need to take action on it now because I feel pressure, right? So this is something also the root center. Most often we don't follow the divine pulse of timing because we take action from pressure. We feel we want to get rid of the pressure, right? So I hope this inspires you a little bit to also see your human design in a more flexible way. And again, no matter what type you are, you all have access to energy, and you have enough energy for what you are meant to be creating and contributing in this world. Every single one of us, right? So you don't have a disadvantage because you are a generator. You don't have a disadvantage because you are a projector. It's not that one type is here supposed to be working for others. I think that's something that is just a really big misunderstanding when it comes to human design. Rather, it is that you're fully equipped to do all the things that you're designed to do. It is more so about really having the courage to, follow your body and do the things that feel right, which often require us to move through a lot of fears, because we have grown up in a society, this is kind of the conditioning we often talk about, where there are these ideas of what work we have to do. And we also have money is always a big topic, right? Where we think that we have to do something because that's the only way how we can bring in money. And I also know we live in a big shift where we have been doing it the old way for so long. And it's not going to be from one day to the other that all of a sudden, like, we're letting go of all the conditioning, and now all of a sudden I'm only going to do what lights me up and nothing else. It's a transition phase, right? It's a one moment at a time process where you keep being aware of, okay, this is misaligned, this no longer feels right, and then you're gently shifting more into activities that really feel aligned and true to you. And with that, again, you will have to come up with a lot of courage, because your mind is probably trying to talk you out of it again and again. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share, just as a little bit of a sneak peek also into how I see human design, how I work with it, because I just have seen it too much in a very limiting way, where people start to think that what is undefined or white, I don't have it, right? Or I have a disadvantage, or if I have it, then I'm more powerful than another person when it's defined. And this is really the black or white thinking, the conditioning that we still have in the world. And this is why I feel that human is actually a beautiful tool to bring that also to our awareness, right? That we can so easily still fall into this binary way of thinking. It's like this or that. I have energy or I don't have energy. Like, okay, no, we all have energy, right? It's just like focus on yourself and really listen to your body, and you're going to have all the energy that you need for everyone. And I can tell you, I know some people that have all these centers undefined and white, and they have amazing amounts of energy, right? Because they're really in tune with their body. They're really allowing themselves to take care of their bodies, and also be, by the way, physically active is super important for everyone. Oftentimes people are actually very tired or lethargic, because there is this narrative that they need to rest and they need to rest and they need to rest, and they're not actually physically moving their body. And this could be, going on a hike or going for a walk or going swimming. I'm sure there are some activities that you really enjoy. One of the ones that I really love is playing ping pong, for example. Haven't done it in a while, to be honest. Also, just getting out in nature, doing some gardening, sometimes even just doing some things in my apartment, rearranging furniture and stuff. This is something that actually I find gives me energy, as long as it's something that I truly enjoy. And I just invite you to, maybe for this week, just find one thing where you are physically engaged and see what happens for yourself. Because especially if you have been trying to push too much, like working on your business, and you feel exhausted, maybe all you need is to dive into some, yeah, physical activity where you can just move your body, you can move the energy in the body, because oftentimes we take on so much stagnant energy from all around us. And once you move the stuck energy in the body, you actually gonna start to feel more energized yourself. So no matter what your human design type is, no matter what centers you have defined or undefined, you have all the energy you need to carry out your unique life purpose, to be of service to the world, to use your amazing God-given talents. And yeah, that's my message for you today. I am sending you all so much love and blessings. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I am very excited to be with you all on the next episode. Bye, everyone.